Hello, everyone, and welcome to Alive in 25. I am Pastor Deb, and I am here tonight with our very special guest, Tabitha. Help me here again.
Lewinberg.
Lewinberg. Sorry about that. And Tabitha, can you tell us what's your part and what your title is for the Juneau County Suicide Coalition?
Yes, I am the president. We started the coalition 10 years ago in May, actually. The county was kind of looking to do something, and I was too. And so it was like, well, let's join forces and make sure we can get some resources and different things like that out to Juneau County.
So it's Juneau County, Wisconsin, just so people know we are in Wisconsin here. So in the 10 years, so what kind of things do you guys do to get information out to folks in the area?
So I work closely because I always just say I'm just a citizen. I started the coalition because my nephew passed away. He was 16, 2 months after he turned 16, 11 years ago. So it took a little bit, and I was like, I just don't want anybody else to have to go through what we went through. And so I do partner with the health department at Juneau County and other resources too. We have different private counseling groups, places that come in. We've also had like somebody from Ho-Chunk and the police departments, just because, it affects all of us. And so those different people have kind of different things they can bring to the table. And also, they may have different. So my husband also works for the city of Mawson. And so we've had speakers specifically come to the police officers, like meetings and things like that, just because, there's different struggles people have, and that demographic, a lot of times they feel like they have to be, strong for their family, for their job. Am I going to lose my job if I say that I'm struggling? Can I tell anybody? So again, not just the pressure of, that, but then there's different demographics on that your job might kind of restrict you to as well. So some things we do with the health department is they obviously keep up on trainings and things like that, but we've done some QPR training at the local high school and different things like that.
Could you QPR?
Yes, let me get you.
It's been a little Sorry, sometimes
I know. I thought after that I said that, I'm like, they're going to ask me. So QPR training is a suicide prevention program. Oh, what does it tell me? What question, persuade, and refer. So that's what the QPR stands for. And basically what that training is for anybody, right? To see the signs. What if somebody in your church or sitting next to you on the bus or something like that makes a comment? How do you, what do you say? So it's that type of training. If you're in these situations, if you're a bus driver or a teacher, or like I said, you could just be at church and somebody says something. How do you know what to say? So we do a lot of those types of free trainings and things like that. We have a walk. So a lot of local communities have an annual walk. And we used to do it in September because that's when like National Suicide Prevention Day would be. But our community tends to do a lot of amazing things in September. And we don't really want to, kind of overlap. So this year we're moving it to May, which happens to be Mental Health Awareness Month. So that's why we thought that would be a good month. And, we're all kind of done with winter here in Wisconsin and want to get out.
Yes, we are.
Do something outside, right? So so that is coming up. Our event is coming up May 17th in town by the City Hall at Riverside Park in Mawson, Wisconsin.
So this event that you're doing, is that to raise awareness, or is it to raise funds to help? Yeah, I mean, just to help fund some of the things. What is the purpose of the event? I think overall, I think it's good because I'm sure a lot of other communities are doing that too, but what is the main purpose of this event?
In anything that I do, I believe my main goal is, awareness, reduce the stigma. That's a huge thing too, is because it happened personally to me too. It was like, do I tell anybody that's how he died? what are people going to say or look like? So that's a huge thing for me. But so awareness is one. Resources is another. Anytime I'm doing anything, it's kind of funny. I've had some events, just, things always depending on the weather and things like that in Wisconsin. They're not always very well attended depending on the night and things like that. But honestly, one event, we helped the janitor. She came at the end of the event and said she was in a situation and whatever. And so I just feel like even if there's that one resource or something laying out, it helps, or can help somebody. And I also feel like if it's not going to help you, I always say, well, take, because we give wristbands, stress relievers with like 988 on them and things like that. And it's like, well, maybe somebody that you could hand it to, so awareness and also the resources. And then we do some fundraising as well, just to kind of keep, keep us going and being able to put different things into the school. In the past, we've paid for speakers to come. Like I said, we've done them at county level and for police departments, different things like that just aren't free.
Right. So, okay. So it is to raise awareness. And so you'd mentioned 988. Could you go into that a little bit there? 988 is a suicide and crisis.
So 988. Yes. And it's newer. So some people don't, or aren't aware of it. So, and if you are looking for stats or things like that, you can just go on the dhs.wisconsin.gov website and pull up a bunch of things too. But it's staffed 24/7. You can call or also text or chat. So it's 988. So it kind of stemmed from 911, right? But it's more mental health based. And so it actually has been, I was actually quite shocked how much it has been used. And actually how, when we had our last meeting like a week ago, they were saying they believe that the 988 and things like that have actually reduced the amount of people having to walk into the ER or police being called, because they can actually handle it just on the phone or the chat and kind of reduce the situation.
That's huge. Wow.
Yeah. And sometimes that's all it is, right? Like somebody just, you don't want to necessarily walk into a therapist's office, but you just need somebody to talk to, or something's happening at that moment. Right. And for kids, the text is huge. Maybe they don't want to talk. They just want to be able to message somebody and feel like there's somebody there. So yeah.
And I think even adults, I think a lot of adults are there. So is 988 specifically for Wisconsin?
No, but the stats I did pull up were just for Wisconsin.
But 988 is a national number? I don't know. I am asking, and sorry to put you on the spot. I'm not for sure.
No, that's okay. So 988, yeah, and I don't know like how they know, and maybe they don't need to know. I don't know how they know where you're from. Maybe it's just
and maybe not, especially if it's just a helpline. So I just want to just take a minute, and so welcome everybody that's just on. And once again, I have Tabitha with me, and she is part of the Juneau County Suicide Coalition that has been in existence for 10 years now, which is amazing. And that is Juneau County, Wisconsin. And so we're here tonight just to talk about, and I asked Tabitha to join us because she's got a lot of good information. Each one of us, and I don't know of anybody, and I don't know, but each one of us have some way, shape, or form probably been touched by suicide, or people with mental health issues who have attempted suicide and maybe not. So I think it's really important that we share the awareness of and some of the statistics and things, because I think sometimes we get caught up in it's just for those people and having a stigma with it. So with that being said, are there signs that people should watch for? What are some of the things that you teach, that are taught for maybe little red flags or whatever that you can help people or help to assist them in getting the information they need, like 988?
Yes, there are some warning signs. Some of them are, just literally them saying it. From my experience, that's usually not what happens, though. They're not very blunt about it, and it's not something that's just happened overnight. They've been having some probably very silent struggles for a long time. So some of them can be, just being sad, more anxious. Otherwise, there have been some signs of they're starting to like give things away or things like that, just some more extreme kind of behaviors. Otherwise, if they have a plan, if you know somebody that has a plan, then they definitely need to seek help immediately, which would be taking them to your closest ER.
So when you say have a plan, and I know I'm trying to break this down a little bit because some people, I think it gets confusing. When you say have a plan, what would a plan look like? I mean, for if you were talking to your child or your neighbor, and for you to, when you say to have a plan, and like I said, I'm trying to break this down. So what does that mean? Like saying, know how. What does that mean? I mean, when you say have a plan, and like I said, I know it sounds really basic, but I think it's important that we define that.
No, that's okay. So in my experience, it would actually be them telling you, or they've accumulated a gun, or they would tell you, that they know how they're going to do it, or they've, what time of the year, or that they're going to, they literally have a plan on how it's going to work, when, where their loved ones who live with them are going to be at the time, like all of that. If they've knocked it down to those details, then that's
the plan. And so it could be, and there's a lot of different ways. And this is the one thing too. And I have buried 4 young people under 16 that have died of suicide, and sitting across the table, and some of the parents, they did not realize, they did not see the signs, and then they felt guilty, and it was not anything that they like I said, if there's a plan, if there's whatever, sometimes we do not realize that our loved ones are struggling as much as they are. And so as we're going through this, and so if you guys are online with us right now, and if you're live, in the comments, if you have questions, please put them in there. If we cannot answer them, we will get back to you. We will get back to you, and we can do that on another time, just on a personal basis. But if you guys have questions, if you're even, like I said, I'm asking very basic questions, but what is the plan? Maybe it's, well, I will take pills. It's, there's a lot of different ways that people take their own lives. And it's not something to take lightly, regardless of how small the plan is. Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
And so,
yes,
because
if you, ever think, take them in. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And so, and then where would you take them? When you say take them to the emergency room, where do you take somebody that you think has a plan to take their own life?
So always the easiest and quickest, and there's, one close to you, would be the ER. Otherwise, if it's during like Monday through Friday, staffed 8 a.m. to 4 p.m., I would say Mauston, where we are in Juneau County, is the county seat. And so if you're around that area, there would be staff there, but most likely that's also where you would go. So the county staffs somebody on a crisis basis 24/7. So if you call that number at 7 p.m., the county building is closed. But a lot of times either they'll kind of go through the, what's going on, and then not all the time, but a lot of the time it is take them to the closest ER, because then they're going to be checked out there. And then from there, they will find a bed in Wisconsin for them to go to. Okay. If that's what needs to happen. And then they go on a 3-day.
Right. And so the thing is that so statistically, have the suicide rate increased over the course of the last few years? Where, I mean, do you know, in we're talking about the state of Wisconsin and even in Juneau County, but
Um,
is that on the rise or does it stay pretty steady? Do you know?
So stats right now, they are a little bit slow just because of, accumulating and things like that. So the newest stats that we have are from 2022.
Okay.
And there were about 924 people in Wisconsin. So 15.1 suicides for every 100,000 people.
Wow.
And
Oh
I
my
do believe
goodness.
that it is, yes, on the rise. And not only on the rise, but I believe it's,
Wow.
I feel kind of in our county that, the age of the attempts is going younger. There has
Okay.
been, I think as young
That
as
was my
6 years
next
old that I
question.
know of. Oh, we have a
Right.
question?
No, no, no. That was my question. What age group? I mean, is there a specific age group that is more, or but you said they're getting younger, and
I'm
and
seeing more attempts in the schools. I mean, 6 years old to me is just unfathomable. At 6 years old, I was picking
seriously.
dandelions and playing soccer. I mean, I think though, this is just from my experience. I really think, you you know, social media and all of the access kids have now to things that I even have access to, all of
Right,
these things. If our parents didn't allow us, and back then it was censored on TV too, right? Like
right,
naughty
right,
things weren't on before 9 or 10 when we were already in bed. And there's just no censoring of anything, I feel like, anymore. Which can cause, more emotion, right? And anxiety and depression. Like, I didn't even know what that was. Nobody had that I knew when
right.
I was in school had any of those things. But I just think there's more stresses on us at a younger age too, of all kinds of things.
Right.
And I think even, things at home, I guess I didn't know of anything like that with my parents, but if it's money struggles now and stress and things like that. And if that's not kept away 100% from your children, they're going to feel those stresses too.
And that is another thing, we hear about cyberbullying, we hear about all of these things that are happening that, like you said, when I was younger, it was, there were there bullies, yes, but it wasn't the thing that they could be in your ear 24/7. I mean, it is now between, kids having cell phones at a younger age, or social media, or going on YouTube on their tablets. And you know what I'm saying? There are so many different accesses that people can get in. And it's not even people sometimes they know. And so, like I said, so there's a lot of different
Right.
things, I think, that is just bringing people into this thing. So, what are some of the things? Because I know, like depression, is huge. Mental health is something that is, we talk about a lot, but I think that mental health is something that a lot of people don't understand either, because sometimes people that, oh, just get over it. I've heard people do that a lot. It's just get over it. And you can't just get over it at times. And so, and so are there trainings, or are there, things that people can go to online, maybe, that they can do this, and how to because some people are very, very rural, and Juneau County is extremely rural, but they don't have the access to maybe going to something during the day because they're working or whatever. So is 988 a website as well? Is that what did I
So
see that, or
988 would be a 24/7 crisis
just
text,
a,
call,
a
or
line
chat.
for
So,
individuals? Okay.
um, and it's staffed 24/7. It's more of a crisis. So if you're, and not that you call or, chat for that reason either, but um, there's a lot of things that they teach you. If you can't, here's the other thing that I really have an issue with is if have health insurance or coverage, but they can't afford to use it, right? So I want to go to therapy, but I have a $50 copay and I can't afford a $50 copay, so I'm just not going to go. Some of those things, I wish in a perfect world there would be things like the county should be able to accept any health insurance that you have, because they don't.
Right.
And then it's okay, you've been given these services that are required because you needed them. And here's your $4,000 bill to somebody who lost their job because they were in the hospital. Right. But there's things that are taught in those types of, when you go into the hospital, or you can do outpatient also. So you go for the day, and it's even for children too, but they teach you things like journaling, or, things like yoga, things like that. I think I would say I never thought I had depression or anything like that. But over the last few years, I don't know if anybody else feels it, but where we live is just a winter depression, we're kind of stuck inside for 6 months, and I'm not one that likes the cold. I don't snowmobile, and then lately it's been like these gloomy days. So even just something like that doesn't feel, extreme. Like I don't feel like, I would need a medication for that, but doing things like exercise, right? So it brings out endorphins and things like that can help mood. Also, they suggest to do like vitamin D, because the sun is so far down in Wisconsin for so many months, that also can help. I know they prescribe that a lot with things, and you can get it over the counter too. But so there's some things like that, and virtual, like you said, if you're stuck at work. I know a lot of people who take their break and go use their cell phone and do like a virtual mental health visit, 20, 30 minutes, and gets them through their week,
Right.
So there are a lot of things like that. I was going to say, because you said something earlier before we hopped on even, was, just loneliness. The ADRC, and this might not be all counties, but our ADRC, and some females go, but it's called the Men's Shed. And it was specifically started to, they just kind of noticed a lot of over 60 or, elderly men that were just alone. And like, what do? They just were sitting at home and were lonely. So they meet once a month, and they do fun things and educate. And like I said, I know there's like 6 to 12 women that go to that too, but just things like that. If you're not involved in a church, the library, sometimes that's what COVID stopped a lot, just being around people. You don't have to necessarily, even if you're introverted, it's not, you don't have to walk into a room full of people you don't know, because that's can cause other things for me and other people. But, just getting out and, having a cup of coffee with a friend, or it can be something simple.
Even if you don't have a friend, go have a cup of coffee with people around you. You know what I'm saying? And that too is just there is something about hearing people's voices. There's something about being in a room with people. We all need human interaction. And that you're right, COVID really took us to a whole different tailspin on that. And I think we're still, that's going to take a long time to recover from, because some people have found very much solace in being lonely and, behind their computer, typing, but they're really not having human interaction. And so, and here we are online, right? But the thing is that if we, the one thing that I have realized and I found, and so we've been live on the porch for probably, since 2020, but before that I did. But in those 5 years, what I've noticed is that there are a lot of people that just need to be noticed, and just need to be heard, and just need to know that they matter and they're okay. And, maybe it's just kindness, that we can spread that kindness, and maybe it's something that we can, work on. So as a community, I'm really excited that Juneau County is doing everything that you guys are doing. And I want to thank you so much for loving our communities enough to do what you do. And everybody else in the whole world who do things to help other people. And sometimes, like I said, but it is, you don't have to have a title to change somebody's world, because it's just about being kind. It's about reaching out, and if you can see that they're lonely, or if you know that they're struggling with depression, or they're maybe in their house more than what they've been before, and they aren't out in their garden, or they're not out even shoveling their snow, if you're, for the winter, but if they're not out doing their normal activities, go check on them. And those are the things that I think that we all can do. We all can do that, or maybe pick up the phone and call somebody if you haven't heard from them in a long time. And it's also good. So, and here I am. This is just my own two cents worth. So correct me if I'm wrong. But it's also, if you're struggling, and to reach out to somebody, and maybe not to tell them that you're depressed or sad, just to hear somebody's voice. Is that something? I mean, is that, and I do think that there is. So Mindy come on and she said that there are support groups for parents living with children that have depression thoughts or have suicide attempts. So there are parent groups out there. Mindy, are those online or are they in your area? I think that is, and if they're online, maybe, but like I said, if they're online, maybe we can post them. Do you know of any parent groups like that? Or Tabitha, do you know of any of them?
There used to be a grief group at Mile Bluff Medical Center. They used to do post-COVID, I hate using that term, and we're 5 years out and it still seems like it was yesterday, but it really has, like you said, changed a lot of things. There was so many more in-person type things in place that really haven't come back. And I know, some different things have changed over there, but specific, I think the question was, are there any groups other than
that's what it was? And I misunderstood. That's what she's asking. Are there any groups that you know of where parents living with children who have depression thoughts or suicidal attempts that they could meet? Are there any groups like that in our area? That was her question. I
other than the one at Mile Bluff, I don't recall offhand. Yeah.
Okay. And you know what, Mindy, we can look
I think, bringing up that. Yeah.
And maybe
stigma,
finding even
some
around online groups, there have to be some kind of, but that is a really good idea. If we don't have one, maybe that's something too that, the coalition can kind of just, I mean, it's a project, right? But parents, I mean, that's another side of this, is the families that are affected by the mental health of the people. And you said your nephew died of suicide, and and we've had some very close friends, and so it is different because maneuvering through that process, afterwards, like you said, do you tell people, where's that at? How do you explain that? And how, or do you, what I'm saying? But maybe you're a little bit more sensitive because of your experiences with other people. But Mindy, I think that is a really good, I will do some research on that as well, to see if there are any kind of parent groups out there for kids who are struggling. Because you did say that the kids are kind of getting younger in the ages. And so helping parents maneuver through that, I think, and maybe having the same experiences or similar experiences would be helpful, because, I can't identify with what you're going through, but somebody else has already been there. And so, so like I said, so if you guys have any questions, like I said, feel free to ask even after we are done tonight. Please, please, please don't hesitate to reach out. And so Tabitha, you said that Juneau County Suicide Coalition has a Facebook page. And so it's updating all of the things. And so is it just under that Juneau County Suicide Coalition?
If you search Juneau County Suicide Prevention Coalition, it should pop up. We have a little lighthouse as our logo. It's yellow and purple, and we post our events on there. We also post, sometimes it's just like a, you matter type of a, encouraging, depends on the type of the year and things like that. But we also have a concert. This will be the third year because I did the concerts in the street a handful of years ago. And then when those kind of went away, I brought it up to Summit Ridge. So if you guys know Juneau County at all, Summit Ridge does huge car shows and stuff like that. And this will be our third year. We actually joined forces with Farmer Angel Network. So they are a suicide prevention group out of Sauk County. And the lead singer of the band that has done it every year lost her dad, and her mom created Farmer Angel Network. So we do that as again, awareness. I like to do events that raise awareness, bring people together, but that can be at no cost. So it's a great concert outdoors if possible. Last year we had to move it inside, but it's a beautiful venue, great night, and it's June. Let me not get it. I want to say June 6th, but now I don't know why I'm contemplating. It should be June 6th. It's a Friday. Once I went to go say it out loud, June 6th. So it's Lights Out Band. And then again, that would be on our Facebook page. And just look for some other events. I want to do some more things, like I said, coming out of COVID, I think now people are more comfortable, being in groups, but just things, like painting or, it literally does not have to be something huge. I think it could be. So we're going to have like painting rocks at the walk. And then, like you said, like be kind, something as small as that. So you can bring your children too. There'll be activities and then they can hide the rocks around for people to find them and things like that. Just some things for people. I really want to do like yoga on the courthouse lawn or something. I think that would be awesome if people driving by and, what is that? And then just have like, just nice, be kind signs or something, and anybody can join if they want to.
So Rhonda had met, so she said that she had to explain to her kids about daddy because they heard wrong things at school in the store. And so Rhonda, first of all, I'm very, very sorry for your loss and having to go through that. But I don't think that this is unique. I think lots, there are other parents who've had to do this too, with the loss of a spouse or another parent. And so there are, I think suicide is something that is touching a lot of families and a lot of lives. And so, and then Lessa has asked, she said, are there any kids that are in wheelchairs? Lessa, are you asking that take their lives by suicide? Is that what you're asking? I'm assuming that's what she's asking, but if it's not, let me know, Lessa. I'm sure that there are people with disabilities that also are in this category because of anxiety and stress and depression as well. So, is that correct? You would know better than I, but I'm assuming that it is not one group of people that take their lives to suicide.
Definitely not. I was, like I said, it happened to our family 11 years ago. Prior to that, not that I didn't know what the word meant, but it obviously is, right on my whiteboard now. And when I started the coalition, one of the gals from the health department, her grandpa around the same time had committed suicide. He had some money struggles and things like that. you know, and again, no signs. He was the life of the party. Everybody's, and I've been told that a lot. It seems like the ones who, you know, on the outside are the happiest or bring people together and, you know, you never would assume are the ones who hold it inside the most and don't, you know, release it or aren't one to just do that. And especially he, you know, is a male.
Right.
That alone sometimes, like I said, they're feeling they have to be the strong one. You know, they can't show weakness, things like that. Yeah. And I believe he was in his 70s. He might have been mid 70s. So, you know, upwards of 80 down to 6 years old. Yeah. And I do have a gal that I do some different things with, and she has a private practice. There's not many that I know of, but she actually is licensed to go down to infancy. So, yeah, I don't know what that looks like, but it's new. And she's like, well, there's not really, you know, many in Wisconsin that are even licensed to do that. I think she said under the age of 5 or must be 5. So like school age, but she is. So.
And you know,
Again, what that looks
like I said, you do hear about that. You know, and statistically, I think I had read that, you know, because you know, male or female, I mean, is there a difference? I mean, is there a higher rate in that population, even in sexes? I mean, you know, and I know there's a lot of questions out there about the suicide rate in different you know, in kids who are struggling with their own identity, even maybe their sexuality, with their whatever. There's a lot of different things. It is, but it's not just one thing. Like you said, finances. That's something. Loneliness. There are a million reasons why people, you know, think that that's the only way out. You know, that's the only way, or it's the best way for them. And so, like I said, it is, and this is just my own experience. So, is there something that, you know, like, do you guys have like a motto or something to lift people up? Do you have something? What would be your advice to somebody tonight? You know, for somebody who maybe is struggling or they are watching their child struggle. Is there something that we could do to help lift them, or is it just, I don't know. I'm looking at some of the thing, and you know, from Mindy is just saying, I think from experience with my son who lives with disabilities is struggling so much, feeling he's different from others. That's huge. And made him think of suicide starting at 6. And it's been ongoing struggle. And so, Mindy, thank you for sharing that, first of all, and because it is real, it is happening all around us. And I don't think that there's, like I said, I don't think anybody is immune from those struggles. So, but I get, and like I said, I just do not have words, Mindy. I am so sorry. And the same with Rhonda. This is on different ends of the spectrum of that. You know what I'm saying? If we have a mom, you know, who's explaining to her children, we have another mom whose child is struggling, and you know, we have, I'm sure it's spouses, it's siblings, it's grandparents, it's parents, it's friends and neighbors. So it's all around us. And what is things that we can do? Like I said, just being kind. I mean, are there any things that you know, and anybody can think of? But share those things with people. Share what you know or what's worked for you. And that I don't know. Right now I'm just, my mind is blown. Just thinking about, you know, the folks that I have worked with. But what about you, Tabitha? Is there something that that we can give hope, maybe?
I think just because I have a child also who struggles and is now an adult, which adds a whole nother level, as mom of an adult child, there's a limiting things you can do. I can't call the hospital. I can't do certain things. And then sometimes it's, the feel of overstepping. So I understand. I know a lot of times my friends tell me I should really go talk to somebody and I haven't. After all these years of my nephew, I think you do have to find your person, I find that in my husband a lot. We really do lean on each other and it's not easy. And I do feel like when there are those struggles, and you're in the thick of it, you do just need to find what is easier for you. I would say, my child does not like to go to therapy either. He's never been an outspoken person and doesn't want to, even on a one-on-one, doesn't want to express those things. I also think you can't help heal until you do, right?
Right.
And so I should preach these things to myself a lot. I know that, but so, just talking to somebody, that's why I really like the 9882. If you don't,
Right.
we've talked about this in our small town, you don't necessarily want to be seen walking into the DHS building, right? Somebody drives by, they're like, oh, why is she going to the DHS building? So you can be at home. It could be midnight, it can be, you don't want to chat, you want to text. And not knowing who's on the other line other than it's just somebody who's there to listen or help, I think is, relieving. But also if there's things that help, like journaling, like I said, or things like that. I know when my son's, gone to the hospital, there's those different things they try to get you to find your coping mechanism. And everybody is not the same. Like I said, he's very introverted. So he doesn't want to do anything that's a group trying to talk about what's going on.
Right.
So I think some of that is just finding what works best for you. Yeah.
Well, and I think everybody's
kind, definitely, like you said, it's not just a person.
And the silent struggles. I mean, you do not know what the person next to you is going through or what's going on inside them. You can judge them by what they wear or how they look or how they present themselves, but we still do not know what struggles or what if they have struggles. And so always being kind is so important. And Wessa had said, and Wessa has some physical disabilities, and she says, what makes me not struggle is more, I listen to the lives like these. And so sometimes that's, you can't get out and about and you do things. And so Wes has been very active and she's been a big part of the porch. And she's also an encourager. So thank you, Wessa, for doing that. And then Mindy says, therapy for myself is very helpful. It has made me learn that I'm doing all I can. I have to accept that. And sometimes as parents, that is a struggle. That is a struggle. And so also a great program is Northwest Journey out of Black River Falls for kids. So there are programs out there to help kids who are struggling. Thank you for sharing that, Mindy. And I think that there are other programs, I'm sure, as well out there. And Sarah says it's easier to say than to do. I think we all know that. Writing it down and ripping paper up is a huge stress relief. I love that. And sometimes it is it is hard to have even words. And and sometimes, like for me, I use my spiritual side, and I can I go to God. That's my, everybody has their thing, but you had mentioned journaling. And as Sarah said, writing it down and ripping it up, and doing these things, I think are so important. And then Judy says, that's something that I would like. Sometimes it's easier to text talk to someone that you don't know. So this is the 988. It's going back to that comment that you had said. It is easier sometimes to reach out to people because then you know you're not being judged by a peer. You're not being judged by somebody. Oh, they might know who I am. That there's a lot of things that go on in that. And then she says, "For I always feel that I don't want to hurt my family or friends, so I don't let them know." And so, Judy, like I said, we'll be lifting you up in prayer as well. So, but make sure you're reaching out to people. I think that is, I mean, kind of like what you said before is, or what we had talked about, is having human interaction, having interaction with people. And maybe it is online, maybe it is a live like this, like Wessa uses that because, we are here and chatting about real things in real time. And sometimes just hearing another person's voice and knowing that you're not alone, even if you're in the house by yourself, you're not alone. But a lot of times people too also feel lonely and they are living with other people. And so that can also be lonely at times because you're not explaining or having the opportunity to just talk freely. So lots of things. And so as we go on with this, and once again, Tabitha, I just really thank you for absolutely everything that you're doing and the lives that you're touching, and for you coming on tonight and chatting about what Juneau County is doing. And I think that that's awesome. And so, folks, no matter where you live, look into the suicide coalitions around, look into some online things. And Mindy, I really do think that we need to look in. I'm sure there are parent groups out there. And if not, maybe Mindy, maybe we can help put one together. And you can do that. You're welcome, Sarah. But like I said, the thing is that there are people, and with the suicides rate, what did you say it was in Wisconsin? How many? 900 some last year or in 2022?
There was 924, I believe it was, in 2022.
Okay, so 900 people in the state of Wisconsin died by suicide in 1 year. Over 900 people. A lot of families are affected by those 900 people. And so, like I said, this is something that we can do to work together. And so I do want to celebrate. Now, you guys are going to be doing your awareness in May. Is that what you said for Juneau County? You're having your event in May?
The walk is May 17th, yes, in the city of Mawson, down by the river at Riverside Park.
Mm-hmm. And everybody
9 a.m. But check out the Facebook page.
Okay. All right. And then look in your area. If you are not from Wisconsin, if you're not from a local area, search your area. Try to find something, raise awareness in your area. And if there is nothing there, maybe God's calling you to start it. Maybe it's weighing on your heart. And, maybe there are people out there like Tabitha who just want to make a difference in your area, and connecting with other coalitions and other things in other places that raise awareness, I think is very important. So like I said, if there is not a group in your area, maybe it is on your heart to start one, because it is so important that we continue to realize that this is not something that's going away. This is not something that is just we can push it under the rug. And, like you said, and I think it's interesting too, because Tabitha, you had said that when you were younger, we didn't talk about, oh, I have so much anxiety or whatever. We always, I remember in high school, it's just, there was drama, there were sad times, but I don't even know if we had the words for them at that point. And now it's rolling off from every every 5-year-old or every 10-year-old's tongue. And it is very, very much aware that people have anxiety and that it's a different day. It really is. So reach out to somebody. If you think that, like I said, if you think that they're struggling in any way, shape, or form, or if you are struggling tonight, reach out. There's a 988 number. There are, call a friend, call a family member, call somebody just to chat. And it does not have to even be about your depression or your anxiety or your issues. Just to have a friendly voice, I think is huge. And maybe I'm wrong about that, but I know for me, when I have down days, just hearing somebody on the other end, knowing that I'm thought about, I am loved, and that I am heard is important. And so before we close, is there anything else, Tabitha, that you want to share, or anybody else online? If you have questions, like I said, even after this live, put them in the comments, and I will get them to Tabitha if she can help us. If you wouldn't mind, if they had questions that we cannot answer, maybe here we can direct you to where maybe you can get the answers that you need as well, or that you're looking for. So, but is there anything else that so the dates are, like I said, we have the walk in May, and then you have the concert in July. And so a lot of things going on, and this is
June 6th.
Oh, June 6th. I'm sorry. I thought I never wrote it down. So
and then in the summer, we're trying to take it to different communities too. So not, sometimes I hear, well, why is everything in Boston? And, like you said, we're so rural, this kind of seems like the meeting place, but we do have some funds to hold some movies. We did Inside Out at the library in Boston, which was really nice because it kind of, brought some of the emotions, and then some chatting on different age groups of children. How do you, kind of decompress from a movie like that and talk about it. So we are going to do some showings at schools throughout the summer too, hopefully some outside movies. So best way would just be to check and, our Facebook page, like that page, and then just kind of keep up with different events.
I love that. And so, and like I said, I do want to thank you for everything that you're doing to raise awareness, to help folks, and the events are to help people interact, and that's important because, like I said, we need that human interaction, whether it's a going to an outdoor movie or an event or a walk or whatever it is, having things to do that, like you said, that you can afford, because sometimes our families, we can't afford to take our families to big events. And so having events like this are so important. So, but you're welcome, Rhonda. And so Wessa, she said that she reaches out to friends every morning. And so that is awesome. And if you have the time to do that, and you have the ability to do that, that is necessary, especially you know your friends. So, but I want to thank everybody tonight. We're
probably makes your day.
Absolutely. And the one thing is, so my mom is now in a nursing home, and the one thing that we found are cards. We don't write letters anymore. People don't mail, but they love to have a card. So if you have kids or grandkids, write cards, take them to the nursing home, let them hand them out, or to veterans, or even in schools, if you're a teacher, have people do that, because it is important. One more thing is, Chad says he goes through mental health. He has panic attacks on good days even. And Chad, thank you for sharing that. And I do think that this is not, like, once again, there are so many of us who struggle in even silent ways. And sometimes that's the thing is just saying, we have days that we just need maybe an extra smile or an extra hug or an extra, you're okay and you matter. So, but like I said, once again, we're going to wrap up here. Tabitha, thank you so much. You have been just a range of a lot of information, and I want to thank you for taking your time and being here with us tonight. And I want to thank everybody else who have been here. Share this video. Let's get the word out there that there is help, that there is people out there like Tabitha who are really out wanting to raise awareness and cut down on that suicide rate because it does affect so many people. So once again, thank you so much, Tabitha. I want to thank everybody here tonight that we're on and that helped make this live what it is. And so know tonight that I'm going to be praying for all of you. That's what I can do. And that know that you are important just for who you are and just where you're at. You are necessary in this world and you are loved. And I pray that you feel that tonight. So guys, thank you so much for joining us. And thank you, Tabitha, once again. Have a great night, everybody. God bless.
Thank you. Thanks for joining, everyone.
Thank you.